Alright, so now we're going to do section 1.5, which is solving literal equations. So a literal equation is just an equation that has two or more variables in it. And solving literal equations just means that you're getting a certain variable alone on one side of the equation. So let's just dive into some examples here. So we have the equation 3x plus y equals 4, and we want to solve this for y. That means just simply we want to get this variable by itself. In order to do that, I need to get rid of this. And the way I get rid of a positive 3x is I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So now all we have left on the left-hand side is y equals. Once I've done that, I've solved for y. Keep in mind that I cannot subtract 3x from 4 because they're not like terms. So you just simply write 4 minus 3x and you're done. Okay, in this example we have y equals 3x plus 5xd, and we're going to solve for x. So you guys know how to use the distributive property. Well, we're going to like doing the distributive property backwards. Notice in both of these terms, this term is 3x, this term is 5xd, but there's a common factor. They both have an x in it. So we're going to take that x out of those terms and rewrite using the distributive property. So taking an x out is really just dividing both of these terms by x. When I do that, I'm going to put what I have left in parentheses. When I divide 3x by x, I get 3. When I divide 5xd by x, I get positive 5d. So now, if I want to get x by itself, I have to get rid of this. And right now I'm multiplying x by all that, and the opposite of that is dividing by 3 plus 5d. So let's go ahead and do that. If I divide this side by 3 plus 5d, anything divided by itself is 1, so now x is by itself. And then I'm going to divide this side by 3 plus 5d, and I'm done. I can't do anything else because I don't know what y is and I don't know what z is. Here are some common formulas that you'll probably see in this section. Distance equals rate times time. Interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. That's a simple interest formula. This is the temperature. Celsius equals 5/9 times Fahrenheit minus 32. The area of a rectangle, length times width. The perimeter of a rectangle, twice the length plus twice the W. This is a formula you might be familiar with. It's the area of a circle. Area equals pi r squared. But I want to solve this for r. So the first thing I need to do is get r squared by itself. Well, let's look at what we're doing to r squared right now. We're multiplying by pi. The opposite of multiplying by pi is dividing by pi. So we're going to do that to both sides, which leaves me with r squared equals the area divided by pi. But I don't want to solve this for r squared. I want to solve it for r. The opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of r squared is r, and 3 pi, and we're done because we have gotten r by itself. We have solved for r. Let's look at this word problem. You deposit $5,000 in an account that earns simple interest. After 6 months, the account earns $162.50 in interest. What's the annual interest rate? So we're going to go ahead and take that simple interest formula. I equals PRT. I stands for the amount of interest earned. P is the principal amount, the amount that you start with. R is the interest rate, and T is time, and T is, the time is always in years. So we want to find R in this equation. So we're going to solve for R, which means that we're going to divide both sides by PT. And that gives us R equals interest divided by principal times time. But we know what the interest is, because they told us up here in the problem. So we're going to take 162.50 divided by the principal, which is 1,000, and the time is half a year because it told us 6 months. So that's 1/2 of a year. That gives us 162.50 divided by 2,500, which leaves R equals 0.065, and we know that this is an interest rate. So if you move the decimal 2 places to the right, because you're multiplying by 100, the interest rate is 6.5%. I want to do another one where we're doing the reverse distributive property. A couple of those, because these will be on the test. You'll need to know how to do them. So I'm going to solve for x, and I notice I have two terms here, both of which have an x in them. So I'm going to divide both of those terms by x. That means x comes out, and in parentheses I'm going to write down what's left over. 2x divided by x is 2. 6xz divided by x is 6z. To get x by itself, I have to do the opposite of what I'm already doing. I'm multiplying by 2 plus 6z, so I have to divide both sides by that. That's going to cancel. And this is going to be 2 plus 6z. So now x is by itself, meaning I have solved it. A over 2 plus 6z, and I'm done. We're going to solve this one for x again. Okay, notice that I've got two terms here that have an x in it, but this is a constant term. So how about we get rid of that? I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides so that these two, the x terms, are alone over there. I can't subtract z from 8 because they're not like terms, so I'm just going to say z minus 8. And then this is what I have left over on the right-hand side. Okay, we have a common term, x. We're going to pull that out, and in parentheses write down what's left over. 6x divided by x is 6. This is subtracting. Px divided by x is t. And on the right, we still have z minus 8. So, in order to solve for x, I have to divide both sides by this thing. Which leaves me with x equals z minus 8 over 6 minus t. And that's all I can do because I don't know what z and t are. This is another one you're going to see. This is the perimeter of a rectangle formula, and I want to solve it for w. This one's going to be fairly easy compared to those other ones that we just did. So if I want this term by itself, that means I need to get rid of this. So I'm going to subtract 2l from both sides. I can't subtract 2l from p, they're not the same terms. So I'm just going to write p minus 2l. And all I have left over here is 2w. Because 2l minus 2l is 0. That's what I wanted. To solve for w, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So w equals p minus 2l over 2. And I'm done because I've solved for w. That's it for 1.5. Thanks for joining me.